Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends, where we take a wiki, we take a deep dive, and we keep swimming it until we find something interesting to talk about. I am your host, Lucas Holland, and I am joined as always by the forever lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
And Karl, today we are talking about something that I don't think is going to make a very interesting thumbnail, but I did want to put some fun clips in for.
Okay, this is interesting.
I'm hoping it will be interesting. We are talking about motion controllers for gaming.
Okay, let's go.
Let's literally go. We've got to get up, we've got to go, we've got to start moving about, Karl.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
We've got to put a massive fucking gap in our 50-inch TV.
All I do is throw that ball up in the air, and when oh, jeez. And there goes the tennis racket.
We've got just...
How many clips are you going to put in of people just annihilating their TVs on Christmas morning?
Probably a few, including one right now.
Was that the funniest genre of videos that came out after the Wii came out, of people just toshing their foreground TVs through? And you can and the thing about those videos, you can always tell it's Christmas morning because there's presents that have been kicked out of the way. Mm-hmm. So they got that Wii 1 hour ago. And that's the shit's gone.
Oh my god. Oh my.
The brand new thing, the fun for the day, and then all of a sudden it's half an hour later and there's just a Wiimote embedded in your TV.
They should have worn the wrist strap.
They should have. They literally put warnings at the start of every game.
But then people look at that and go, I'm not an idiot. And smash cut to an hour later, maybe I am an idiot.
Maybe. And it's very funny because I was playing, the essential, successor to Wii Sports, Nintendo Switch Sports, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And we were playing bowling and something felt a little bit off. Eventually I noticed that with Wii Bowling, you were meant to press the B button on the underside of the controller, and then when you wanted to let go of the ball, you'll let go of the button.
You mean when you bowl?
Yes.
And you let go of the bowling ball. You don't fly down the lane like you've overcharged in Tekken Bowl.
But with the Nintendo Switch boards, I kept letting go of the button, and you're not meant to, because Nintendo realised that's why so many people were probably launching their controllers into TVs.
Because rather than letting go of the button, they'd let go of the entire Wiimote, like they would a bowling ball, and just throwing the Wiimote directly at their TV, like in this clip.
Yeah, that's the thing, is usually I talk about this kind of stuff on the podcast because it's a bit of maybe a drier subject, but I couldn't resist the idea of just being able to throw in some random YouTube videos of people annihilating their TVs.
You feel so bad until you realise where there is strap.
Yeah.
It's I view those videos the same way. It's when people fall off. Do you know when you watch a fail video or you've been framed and someone falls off a bike and you feel really bad unless they're not wearing a helmet?
Yeah.
It's you should have been wearing a helmet.
But you were literally warned. You were warned at the beginning of playing the game with a big, massive, blaring, white, bright screen. Go, do not wear the wrist strap, and do not stand close to anyone else, because there'll also be a clip right now of someone just hitting their family member in the head with a Wiimote.
It's every time. It's in regards to wearing the helmet thing, it's like Tony Hawk wears a helmet.
Yeah, you talk to any of those pro skaters and they're all wearing pads and helmets, and they're you'd be fucking stupid not to.
Yeah, and you ask anyone who's done any extreme sport for long enough, would you recommend not wearing a helmet? No, this thing's saved my life more times than I can count. Mm-hmm. And you ask anyone who's smashed their TV, it's do you wear the wrist strap every time?
Do you put the Wii condom on your Wiimote?
Every time. Because that thing of you only need to break your TV once for it to be a lesson that you learn. It's like falling down the stairs. You only need to fall down the stairs once holding a cup of tea to never walk down the stairs holding a cup of tea again. Yes, I've done that.
And I still remember for Nintendo Switch Sports, I think it was maybe a previewer from IGN who they didn't manage to let go of the Joy-Con and throw it at the TV, but they accidentally, when doing, I think it was the football one, just kicked a sandal at the TV that Nintendo had for them. It's it's happening all over again.
That's the thing. It's just gonna happen. Like, wear your fucking helmet.
There's also, clips going to be thrown in of people getting too into, like, VR games and just launching themselves into the wall of the living room.
Those ones are great as well, when they're like, just go head first in. Because yeah, you feel bad, but then it's just you can see yourself doing it. You're laughing at yourself as much as you're laughing at them. It's like, I'd have done it too.
Yeah, exactly. But we're gonna get into the wiki itself here.
Tell me about motion controlling in video gaming.
In computing, a motion controller is a type of input device that uses accelerometers, gyroscopes, cameras, or other sensors to track motion.
What's the fascinating bit, isn't it? Is like, it's really difficult to track motion accurately. That's why stuff like the Kinect was way more interesting as a piece of technology than it ever was as a gaming peripheral.
Yeah, it's weird how many different people have like used it for really interesting capabilities outside of making you do like the fucking Kinectimals game or whatever.
I'll never forgive the Kinectimals game for not letting you fight the tigers. Like, do you know when they show like the little kid petting a tiger? It's like, just give me an option where the tiger's coming at me and I've got a fucking tiger drop it like kid at you.
Okay? Good.
Those Kinect demos were incredible because I still just forever to this day love that moment where they straight up lied with that Milo thing.
Oh yeah, just the fucking like child sex predator simulator. Groom this virtual child.
We've been experimenting with something here. I'd like you to meet a boy called Milo. He's a character that can recognize us. He can recognize our faces. He can recognize our voices. He can recognize emotions in us.
You're gonna make best friends with this small child and get to know them, and like they'll learn from your conversations. It's like,
is that the biggest lie in video games? But also, who was that for?
Yeah, not only was it a massive lie, but who wants this?
Who specifically wants the thing of like, you can befriend a small child, rather than making it the obvious choice of a big-titted anime girl?
Now that I might have played. Just when you like hear those stories of people that have like married Hatsune Miku and things like that, how many people would just be like, yeah, my girlfriend is just on my TV.
No, that's the thing, like, that was, like, the most egregious thing of, like, just... what's the guy's name again? It's Peter...
It must have been Peter Molyneux.
Peter Molyneux, like...
Yeah.
Do you ever see the interview with him where the first question they ask is, are you a compulsive liar? And then he lies by saying, no, I'm not. It's like, you can't help yourself, can you, Pete?
He really can't. Of like, in Fable... this tree's going to, like, grow in real time, and you could plant an acorn and watch a tree grow. It's like, fuck off, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
The weird thing is, like, Fable was quite an impressive game when it came out. There was no need for the lies.
That's the problem, yeah. It's like, I don't understand why he has to keep lying. Because he makes decent games. He made, like, Black and White, was it, and Goddess and stuff? They were all fine.
Mm-hmm. Then there was also that weird, like, game where whoever got to the center of this puzzle became like, somebody that had stock in his next game, and then he just never made it.
That game never came out. The true Peter Molyneux experience.
Like, you will share profits with the next game that I make in this contract of like specifics, and then that game never came to be. Motion controllers see use as game controllers for virtual reality and other simulation purposes, and as pointing devices for smart TVs and personal computers.
So have you ever used that? I can't think of any time I've ever seen someone do that and then not immediately press the button.
Mm-hmm.
Motion control is one of those things where it will never replace pressing a button, because when I press a button, the same thing happens every single time.
It's precise, yeah.
Yep. It's like, at some point, they're going to ban touchscreens in cars. So my friend's got like a touch screen in his car, and the amount of times where he's had to look away from the road to change the song on his radio. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how is this a thing that's allowed to be in a car?
Yeah.
The same thing with like motion controls. When I see him like try and use it on his TV, and it wobbles from side to side, and he accidentally boots up Netflix. And then 'cause his TV's slow as fuck, like it takes 40 seconds for Netflix to boot up to be cancelled straight out. I was like, just press a button.
It's so much easier most of the time. And it is a shame though, because I found, like, for example, playing on the Wii, the actual act of, like, aiming at the TV, for example, when you're playing Metroid Prime 3, that was a really satisfying experience, because it was almost replicating, like, mouse controls for a shooter, but with your Wiimote.
It's also worth pointing out as well, a lot of, like, at least first-party Nintendo games, they would put some aim assist on there. Like, it wouldn't wobble half as much as it probably would in your hands. Like, there's a bit of massaging to make it a bit more accurate.
Yeah, for sure, but it's one of those of the actual, like, motion use in Metroid Prime 3 annoyed me, where, like, oh, unlock the door by pointing your, like, thrusting your Wiimote forward and twisting it and pulling it back, and half of the time Samus's hand was like, I don't know where I'm going, but the pointer controls really, really worked, and it annoys me that we didn't get more, like, good shooters, because even though the Call of Duty games on there weren't great, it was a satisfying way to play those games.
It was. It annoys me more that we never got, like, a peripheral that just made your hand look like Samus's arm cannon.
I mean, that is true, because we got, like, the Wii Zapper or whatever it was called, where you had, like, the little awkward gun, but we didn't get just arm cannon mode.
Which seems so stupid, like, why didn't they do that? Just have a sleeve, and that'd stop you from fucking throwing at your TV.
That's true.
You'd have, like, a wrist strap on there, wouldn't you? I understand as an appeal of, like, ooh, there's no wires, there's no buttons to press, but it will only ever be a gimmick. What they want is people want Iron Man. They want Iron Man's computer, Joey's, like, exploding diagrams and stuff like that, but it's not going to work like that, because the moment you have to click, like, say, the X in the corner of your screen to close a window, and you miss, and you accidentally, like, send an email to your mum. Because the truth is, like, how many inputs can you really do when you've got to make big sweeping motions with your hands? A couple, right? And you're going to get knackered. How many inputs can you put in on, like, say, a keyboard and mouse?
Yeah.
Like, think about, like, StarCraft players. When they say, like, StarCraft players make, like, 100 movements, micro movements per, like, second or something stupid like that when they're using a keyboard and mouse. Imagine trying to replicate that, like, accuracy, but you have to move your entire fucking body.
It just goes to show as well, like, just how many people very quickly, when they got their Wii and played Wii Sports, figured out that they can play sitting down by just going like that.
Yep.
How quickly did that become what most people did?
Well, it's like Kinect. Think about how many people turned off or just unplugged their Kinect the first time they played Halo, and someone on their team was called Xbox Go Home. And they would, which is something I saw happen when Halo 4 came out for, like, the Xbox One. You had to have a Kinect. A guy called Xbox Go Home was team killing, so people would shout out his name and then the game would quit.
Admittedly, a very dickish thing to do now that I think about it. But
it highlights an issue with it, doesn't it?
I was going to say something else of, like, I was, younger, more foolish, more dickish person at the time, but I always thought it was very funny that, like, you could say Xbox turn off and it would be, are you sure?
Yeah.
And you would have to confirm yes or no. But if you just said Xbox eject, it just eject the disc and turn the game off immediately. So just the amount of times I walked past my friend and just went, Xbox eject.
Well, that's the thing. You're highlighting a critical design flaw. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to explain, but once you've had it pointed out to you, you'll never unsee it. And it's like, a lot of the time, devices are made with the ideal customer in mind. Mm-hmm. For example, Windows 8. Remember Windows 8 came out and it was a huge failure because it had all the big squares? And everyone was like, this shit sucks.
Because it was made specifically for touchscreen devices and, like, the Surface that they were bringing out and stuff,
So internally at Microsoft, they all had touchscreens because Microsoft was trying to use the Surface Pro, was it?
Something like that, yeah.
Every developer had access to one of those, and it was developed with the idea of that in mind. But the moment you gave it to the average user experience, they didn't have a touchscreen. Mm-hmm. And people who do have touchscreens generally don't want to put their fingers on their fucking screen all the time, especially when it's a work monitor or something like that.
I was going to say, like, someone with a Surface, because that's, like, mainly used as a tablet-like device for a lot of people, but when you're sitting there on a laptop or like, a monitor at your desk or something, you don't want to be putting your hands all over it.
Yeah, and it's just, they just don't anticipate the average user experience. I remember there was an update for one of the Windows, I think it was Windows 11, I think, where they moved the the start button, to the center of the screen.
Yeah.
And they put it to the center of the thing because it looks neater, and then everything emerges, blooms from the center. So I think I've explained to you, Lucas, why the start button is right at the bottom left of your screen on every single OS in existence, except for ones where they try and change it to be different.
It's because if you just like move your mouse to the bottom left, your mouse eventually has to stop at the bottom corner.
Yes.
You can always click it without looking.
And folks at home can check this. It's because not everyone knows how to use a computer. And if you drag your mouse to the absolute bottom left, all the way down, you can still click your start button.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an easy way to get people into it. Like, here's the start button with all your stuff on it. Drag it to the extreme bottom left, and you can click it. And you can't go too far. When it's in the middle, you can go too far left or right.
Yep, you can't naturally just click it without looking or without trying.
Yep, or even if it's like, a seasoned user can just scroll the mouse all the way down to the bottom and just know it's going to be there.
As well, just it's terrible for accessibility of... I think one really good example was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Yep.
Unless you were playing in handheld mode, there was no way to turn off capturing a Pokemon with motion controls. Like, if you were playing on your TV, you had to use motion controls to throw the Pokeball like that with the Joy-Con.
Which is fine for everyone who has the ability to move freely or without pain.
Yeah, exactly. And even just for longer gaming sessions, like, if I wanted to play that game for a longer amount of time, I remember there was one day that I did, and my arm just became tired of just every time I wanted to catch a Pokemon, I'm sitting there literally throwing it, and I just put the game into handheld mode, took it off the TV because I was fed up. The fact that there's no way to turn that off means that there's a large population of players that can't necessarily play that game.
Yeah.
It was a terrible demonstration because of how many devices were in the room and stuff, but an exaggerated performance of how bad it can be when they revealed The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. And Miyamoto came on stage with like the big sword and shield and like was really into the moment and came out and was like, you're gonna fight Link, he's gonna have the Wii Motion Plus, it's gonna be super accurate, one-to-one replicated movements.
For many years, I've been asking if there wasn't a way to create a Legend of Zelda game that would give you the freedom to use your sword and shield and items freely and naturally. The answer I've come to this time is this. The Wii Remote and Wii Motion Plus.
And then they tried to demo it on stage and it just flopped completely.
Okay, so here, I have to cut vertically. Woo! Oh.
Also, as well, the fact that I didn't let you do the and do a full spin. Because obviously they can't tell you to do a big full spin. It's like when you do like Just Dance. And I was legit surprised when I played like a Just Dance game. And like the stuff that they actually ask you to do during those, 'cause you're supposed to follow the character on screen. I was like, surely someone at home has fallen down a flight of stairs trying to do one of these dances. Like when you do like, if you dance along to like Rah Rah Rasputin, like the end of the song is just do the Cossack dance. It's like, what? Who's going to be able to do that at home? And anyone trying this is going to fall back and crack their head on the fucking coffee table.
Yeah, and then you always find it with, for example, the Wii version, where, again, the game has one limb where it can read your movements. It's not like the Kinect where it can see your whole body. So many people just eliminate any extra movement necessary and just move the one arm.
Yeah.
And the game doesn't know that you're not doing anything else because it only has one element that it can read from.
Those people aren't playing Just Dance. If you are not giving it like all and you are not serving, you need to be like you're on an episode of Drag Race when you're playing Just Dance.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I don't get is why even bother, because the entire point of Just Dance is to do the dancing and have fun, and you're eliminating the fun aspect of it.
No, because they want to get a high score. Lucas, have you ever played like Guitar Hero or Rock Band with someone who, like, if you don't get a full combo, restarts the song?
I'm very aware that gamers like to min-max the fun out of fun, yeah.
You ever had that? I had a guy do that once. We were playing a song, and, like, he missed a note, and he started and restarted the song without asking anybody.
I bet everyone loved playing with that person, yeah?
No, we immediately stopped. We immediately stopped and grabbed a beer.
Wait, you're saying that everyone wasn't, like, at their beck and call all night and wanted to play with them constantly?
No. Because the moment they made a mistake, it became their issue.
Was that not fun for you, Carl?
It was not. Like, these things exist as a gimmick. And no, I'm fine for them to exist as a gimmick. The problem always is as with all technology, when it's new and exciting, they overpromise and they say it's going to change the world. Like you have like a Peter Molyneux come on stage. It can't just be this thing. It's a camera that can track your movements and that can translate to gameplay and let you interact with the medium in a new and interesting, novel way. He was like coming out on stage like it's going to let you molest cyber children. You're like, Peter Molyneux, why is this where your mind goes with the technology?
Why did you have to put it up?
That's what he did, though. That's what it was. Why is that where the technology went?
Hi, Milo. How you doing?
Hi, Claire. You okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
This is the first time that thousands of people are going to see this.
Thousands of people?
Here we're seeing Claire being recognized, and the emotion in Claire's voice being recognized, and that emotion reflecting in Milo's face.
Yeah, why is that where his mind went? Dear God.
Why are you doing this? I'm just going to look up Milo and see like where that went.
Oh, it was just a lie that didn't go anywhere, right?
I'm curious about like who develops it. So go on, tell me more about motion controls.
Well, I'm going to go to the history of like different motion control devices now, because before we started recording, Carl saw myself just losing my shit at some of these that I didn't know existed.
Yes.
Just some of them so bad that they don't even get their own Wikipedia page, which is fantastic.
That's how you know as well they were just like, yeah.
But we do start with a very successful one. One of the earliest uses of motion controllers included the Sega AM2 arcade game Hang On, which people might not be familiar with the game. I was not, but it used a controlled video game arcade cabinet that resembled a motorbike.
And those things are super and that's the thing.
Exactly.
That's what motion controls. It doesn't need to be it's going to change the world. It's just like, hey, do you want to pretend to ride a motorcycle?
Yeah. And those games are super fun. Like, how many people, when the arcade machines, like, you know, came around, those arcade machines, how many people are always, like, waiting for the motorbike game?
Hey, here's what. Just put in the clip of Kiryu playing that shit. Those things are awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, as well, that's like, you know, an extension that'd be light gun games. How much fun are light gun games?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have a favourite light gun game?
I did always like, I think it's, is it Point Blank?
Point Blank was a lot of fun, because that was like a gimmick on the entire genre, wasn't it? Where instead of shooting things, like you solve puzzles with a light gun.
Yeah, it was like puzzles and mini games and stuff like that, as far as I can remember. I always liked that, and obviously there's just like the classics of like House of the Dead and Time Crisis.
Which one though? Which House of the Dead? Because it's number 3, right, with the shotgun.
Oh yeah, the shotgun one's great. Yeah,
because you get a full-size shotgun. You've got to cock it one-handed as well, like you're like a Terminator when you kill a boss.
Oh, my favourite is always the Shadow the Hedgehog one, where you could cock the machine gun, right?
That's great, yeah. Also, as well, speaking of light guns, have you ever played light gun games with someone who takes them super seriously, where they don't hold it like a gun and try and John Wick it? They hold it right to their chest and they pull the trigger with their finger, like going.
Oh god, the one that really impressed me, I think it was Time Crisis. I think it might have been, where there was just a video of this guy playing both cabinets at once perfectly, and it's like, yes.
See, that's what you want. Because that's like when I play Time Crisis and like any light gun shooter, I'm John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that shit. I'm like doing I'm doing like JoJo poses with the gun. I'm spinning.
You gotta like hold it sideways and try and do the cool reloads. It's like, yeah, man. But yes, the motorbike game Hang On, it began the Taycan trend, I think it's referred to as, which uses motion-controlled hydraulic arcade cabinets in many of the arcade games from the late 1980s.
Okay,
2 decades.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Speaking of, you know, that kind of gimmick, what would you want to be replicated? Because is there like an Akira version of that? Where you could do the slide, where it goes all the way around?
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking when you just said that. I was like, well, a motorbike game is already kind of like the cool ideal anyway, but I would like some more, like, you know, ability to twist the bike around, I guess.
I want it to go all the way around so I can do the Akira slide.
Yeah, like if you had some sort of, instead of it just leaning left and right, it was full 360 degrees movement, that would maybe be the ideal.
Do you like Roche in Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the bullshit he's doing, like, wahoo! I want that.
That was a full 2 decades before motion controls really became like popular in video game consoles.
Because that's hydraulic, isn't it? I bet they're really hard wearing as well.
It must cost a ton to manufacture something like that. So it's understandable that that didn't really pick up in popularity, but they're cool as fuck.
Do you know what as well? Do you know you see those like weirdos who have like the full like flight simulators in their houses and the driving sims? Why does no one get those motorbike ones? They're way more fun.
They are, and I was just thinking as well, you know, we were talking about having the 360 degrees. I would love it if you had like that Mario Kart arcade game, but when you got hit by an item, like you span you around like in the car.
That'd be terrifying.
It would be. Oh, it just drops a blue shell on you in real life. Dear God. Carl, I want you to know that in 1993 there was a thing called the Sega Activator, which was based on a light harp invented by Asaf Gurner. It was an optional accessory for the Mega Drive / the Sega Genesis. I'm going to start sending you pictures of some of these now.
Okay.
The way that they're marketing this for, like, Streets of Rage, I think it might be.
Okay, let me have a look. Okay, that's amazing. I want one.
So there's just a small ring on the floor. I've obviously put a picture in now. You're standing inside of and doing motions, and the game is meant to replicate your motion, but the fact that for Streets of Rage they've got what looks like a guy ready to do a fucking drop kick in the middle of his house.
That's the thing. I remember they had something similar where I saw it advertised. It was like, oh, you attach like these things, one to your hand, one to your wrist, one to your leg, one to your other leg. And it's like, oh, your game character copies what you do on screen. It's like, no, it's just like each one is connected to a button, and you like you throw a punch, and your character you press a square, which for a lot of fighting games is just a punch. They're not going to copy what you do. It's just you're pressing the buttons doing that, and they're the things that people play at Dark Souls on now, aren't they?
Oh,
people get those like
stuff,
sort of peripherals to beat Dark Souls. Like, is there someone who beat Dark Souls on like? Is it the Ring Fit thing?
I mean, people have beaten it with like Ring Fit Adventures thing. They've beaten it with a DDR mat. Right. Someone's beaten it with like a flute, like an electronic flute at Summer Games Done Quick or something, I think.
Well, don't forget our mutual friend, Ross Boomsock, shout outs to them, who played League of Legends using bananas one time.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Yeah, Ross Boomsocks, he played League of Legends with bananas once.
Cleanse works. Does exhaust work? Exhaust does work. Can I WEQR? Everything works, baby. All right.
Oh, that's the true DK experience. Yeah, and speaking of Sega, they also had a Sega VR headset. It was an early unreleased VR device with built-in motion tracking, first announced in 1991.
Yeah. Well, they've been trying to do that shit for years. And here's the thing. It's never going to take off because they will never get it to not look stupid.
I mean, that's the biggest hurdle, right?
The biggest... Like, everyone always says it's the fidelity and the quality. It's like, no, it's because it looks stupid. Every single one of these devices looks stupid. No one wants to wear that thing on their head.
At this point, you've got, like, the Meta Quest 3, which is completely wireless, powerful. It's got a good screen. It's got good motion controllers. It's everything it needs to be at this point. It's got like the in and out cameras and whatnot, but it still looks stupid and no one wants to be seen wearing them.
I've never seen someone wearing one, but I don't think they look like a knobhead.
I think the only time I've seen people look cool is the Beat Saber streamers that have like the green screen with all of the Beat Saber things coming out.
Go fully into the gimmick. Those people are awesome. Yeah, Beat Saber streamers are really awesome when they get all the way into it.
I kind of wish when I see those streams, I'm like, I should really try and figure that out, because that'd be awesome to do as streams.
Yeah, that's you've got to go fully into the gimmick, and that's because that's more the aesthetic of the game than it is the devices they're using to interact with it.
Exactly, yeah. It's almost as if Beat Saber is so cool that it makes you forget about how dumb they look with the headset on.
So I will say that one fun game I had in VR is when I played Super Hot, because that actually is an interesting use of, because as soon as I put that on and they played a level, because Super Hot, if you don't know, is the world only moves when you move. So I didn't know this, and someone put it on me, and he's just getting bum rushed by the pixel people from Smash Bros. And I was like, what do I do? My friend said, you got to kill him. I was like, what? So I remember, like, it got to the point though where it's just, okay, level starts, I turn around, all these glass ghosts rush me, and I crouched, which worked, and then punched them all in the dick. I was like, this game's amazing!
Yeah, Superhot is definitely another one I'd recommend people trying in VR, because it's a cool game anyway when you're not playing in VR, but that experience of you standing still and all of a sudden the world just completely slows down around you.
Well, that's the problem as well that a lot of VR games fall into they have to come up with a contrivance for why you can't move.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they will never come up with a fun game that's longer than half an hour. Because that gimmick gets real old real fucking fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't the solutions they have to moving are on-rail shooters, at which point you might as well be playing a light gun shooter, which you don't need to wear a headset for.
And I get that it's like more immersive, but it's also way more vomit-inducing a lot of the time.
VR is only fun when you play it in a way that's not intended.
Or you're playing Beat Saber.
Yeah.
I contend that Beat Saber is just one of the greatest games I've ever played, and literally I'm tempted at some point when I get the money to buy a better VR headset than the PSVR, just so I've got like a wireless Beat Saber machine.
I have never understood how Beat Saber didn't get a collaboration with Star Wars. And have Joe, instead of like hitting the things, they're just lightsabers now, and it's you in a lightsaber duel.
Well, one of the most popular mods they did on like the PC version was just make it a dual-wielding lightsaber.
Yeah. Do you also see as well that so many people modded in Dragon Force songs? That Dragon Force just did an official collaboration with Beat Saber.
Of course.
Because people were just modding in through the fire and flames. Dragon's like, fuck it, we'll just record a song.
Well, I mean, that was half of the reason Dragon Force became popular in the first place, right?
Hell yeah.
Through the Fire and Flames was the secret Guitar Hero 3 song.
Yep, that you played over the credits.
Mm-hmm. And just, you unlock that shit, and that was the go-to song to beat.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't understand why, like, Beat Saber and Dragon Force themselves weren't all over it. I'm surprised, like, every time a new rhythm game comes out, Dragon Force aren't, like, knocking their door down.
Yeah, especially how much they all love video games and stuff. Like, their latest album is, like, video game themed. It's wild. It's like motion control. They keep trying to make motion control Star Wars games, and they are completely hindered by how just allergic to being interesting Star Wars is.
However, Carl, it did give us one of the greatest moments of, like, I'm Han Solo or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, just crotch thrusting. Speaking of lies, there's that one where it's like, oh, it's the Kinect Star Wars game where the guy copies everything you do on screen. And you clearly see the guy move after the character on screen moves because it wasn't a real game.
They clearly recorded the game footage and asked an actor to make it look like they were playing the game.
Remember when they announced they're going to make that General Grievous Star Wars game? And I said, make it like Octodad, where it's like you have 4 fucking Joy-Cons, you got to play as 4 players with the 4 lightsabers. And they went, no, instead it's just you play as Darth Vader and lightly slap stuff.
The Octodad experience of 1 person per limb, but it's General Grievous, that'd be fantastic.
Well, they wouldn't do that because it diminished the Star Wars brand. It's like, I told you before about that VR game, like 50-foot tall cop. Remember I told you about that, where it's like you are a 50-foot tall cop and it's like, okay, solve this problem. And you just pick up people and throw them into the atmosphere. It's like, problem solved. Where's that? But it's like a Jedi with the Force.
One of the most fun experiences is just dicking about in Star Wars The Force Unleashed and seeing what things you can grab and see how many like stormtroopers you could get holding on to one another in a little train of panic. And why is that not a Kinect game?
Yep.
Why is that not some kind of VR game of like, you just got the Force and you're just able to pick up and push things around? I think one of the most interesting applications in a Star Wars game for like motion controls or VR or anything was actually Star Wars Squadrons. And it's a shame that that game kind of got forgotten about almost immediately. Of like, it's the kind of follow-up to Star Wars, you know, X-Wing and all that back in the past of just, you are a pilot and dogfighting in space. But you could play that game in VR and look around the cockpit and everything. It's like, that's the kind of experience you want. It's not badly wielding a lightsaber and force powers. It's getting inside the cockpit of a TIE fighter, really detailed, and, you know, being able to just look around and examine everything and use all the different cool levers and fly around space.
Well, here's the thing, go on. What's your dream VR game? Like, what's the game you think they should make with like VR and motion controls that they, for whatever reason, haven't made? Because I've got a couple.
I mean, you go ahead, because I haven't got one off the top of my head.
Okay, so do you remember like Steel Battalion?
Oh, yeah.
And that had like the which was the mech game, which was so realistic that you had like the 200 button controller.
Yeah, that
And
was
you,
the thing they
you
brought
had like
out.
pulleys and levers and stuff, and it was like you were inside a fucking tank. Where's like a VR mech game where they offer like a peripheral? Do you know what I said, like the Samus arm cannon? Give me a peripheral that's an entire helmet, so I can feel like I'm in Pacific Rim.
I was about to say Pacific Rim the game, yeah.
Give me the Pacific Rim thing, and give me the entire helmet so I feel like I'm inside the game.
It'd be really funny as well if you could have like an optional like gimmick mode within that game where you play 2-player and you both got to do the same movements at the same time.
Oh, unless you play as like Striker Typhoon and you got to get a third one in on back.
I think the biggest problem with a game like that is that mechs have to move slowly.
And that'd be difficult to get across to a VR. So the other one would be, similar to Steel Battalion, don't give me a mech, give me the Megazord. And let me control like one limb of the Megazord. But you know, you wear the helmet so you feel like you're inside the Megazord, and you look around, you see your other teammates, and you look through the window and you see a monster of the week coming at you.
It would be great if instead of being in like the one bit of the chest or the head or whatever where they sit, where they're all in like one
and that's what I want
room.
the VR to be from. And I want no third-person view, and I don't want it to be a fighting game. I want it to be a resource management game.
I was going to say it would be great if instead of being in like that control room cockpit, you're still in the limb. So you're just in like one of the hands, but just the hand, as soon as you throw a punch, you're like, ah!
The problem is they always make these games and think that you want to be the one shooting the gun. It's like, no, make it so you're in the cockpit and you've got to just like, okay, there's like a fucking monster running at you. Press the buttons that you've got to do, and you look over and see your teammates not doing it. No, hurry up, Kimberly, hurry up.
I think one of the most interesting sounding VR games I've never got a chance to play is like the Star Trek game where you are members of the Star Trek crew all in your own individual chairs, and you are just like on deck doing your job. Like someone's in charge of the weapons, someone's in charge of.
Okay, yeah,
you know.
I didn't know that existed. That game, but you're you're inside the Megazord.
Yeah, there is that game, but for Star Trek, and it sounds amazing to have like a full crew all just sitting in their chair on deck doing their own jobs.
Or, like, give it for Football Manager and let me sit at the... Do you know when you just sat down on your sofa, so I'm at the side of the field? Did you ever see where Football Manager did a thing where you could connect it to Kinect, and if you said fuck off...
Oh,
do you remember that? No, it was FIFA. It was FIFA. If you swore when you were playing FIFA, you could get a yellow card.
You could get carded for swearing when you got, like, fouled or something, but you could swear when... your opponent gets like a foul, you could swear, and they would get yellow carded. I love being able to implement stuff like that, and I do think there is like a lot of really cool uses, but I just want to show you a few
give me some examples,
pictures.
Like some of the failed like attempts at motion controls, because here's the thing,
all the ones I've just never heard of.
Every single time they implement motion controls or stuff like that, I turn that shit off. It's like I've been playing through Elden Ring again, and I was like, why does my character, when I'm trying to pick up an object, keep fucking, like, sitting down? It's like, oh, because by default, motion controls are on the PS5. And moving your controller while you're holding triangle, which is the button to pick up items, does gestures. So I immediately went in and turned all that shit off immediately, because I've never once done it on purpose. I've only ever done it by accident.
I remember trying to figure out how to emote to people that I was bringing in, and it's like, what do you do? It's like, well, you hold this button and then swing your controller up like this. It's like, why?
But I only ever did it by accident when I was trying to pick up an item.
God, that would be funny, though, if, like, there was a game where you couldn't turn the motion controls off in Elden Ring, let's say, and every time you wanted to pick up an item, you had to, like, pick up your controller off the floor.
Do you know what? That'd be a game I'll play for 5 minutes and turn off.
It would be very, very funny in, like, a trolly way. But speaking of gimmick, Carl, obviously there was the Wiimote that came out. We're all familiar with, like, Wii Sports, the Wii Remote, the Nunchuck. And something I wasn't aware of was a Razer Hydra, and I googled that one, and I don't know what the thing in the middle is, but guess what it is, Carl? It's basically... It's like 2 nunchucks and then an orb in the middle.
And what's the orb for? Do you sit on that?
I don't know what the orb is. Like, maybe you stick it up your ass and it vibrates for you. I don't know.
Use it to play chess.
There was another one here that was another wand-based device. It was the Asus E-Stick
That's a terrible name.
The literal is EEE. And I don't know what this was, and it doesn't have like a proper page on Wikipedia, but I googled what it looks like, and again, it's just, do you like the nunchuck?
Just let Nintendo figure it out, and then just copy what they did.
And then, Carl, fuck knows how you even use this thing, but there's also the HP Swing gaming controller.
That sounds terrible. Let's go.
I don't even know what you meant to do with this fucker, other than swing it.
That looks like a Stanley knife.
Yeah, it's like, what was going on? And it just, everyone saw the Wii just sell like 100 million units, and like, fuck it, we need our Wii Sports thing. And then there was obviously the PlayStation Move controllers, which were the ones with like the little glowy balls on the top.
The problem always is, it's like, we want Wii Sports because Wii Sports sold like 100 million copies, but also we're not going to make Wii Sports.
We want the system, but we don't have the system seller. Wii Sports was the entire basis for half of the people that bought a Wii to buy a Wii, and the other half was Wii Fit. I always remember playing Sports, Carl.
The thing is, motion controls, they can make them work, and that, but they're never going to be able to figure it out because, again, it will be a gimmick.
Yeah.
It will be a gimmick. And gimmicks don't normally last. It's like anyone who lives in like a medium-sized city, for example. How many cereal cafes, escape rooms, and the like have you seen come and go? Where they open them up, people go for the gimmick, and then they never fucking go again. Because it's not something that people do all the time.
It's fun to use every now and then, and there are occasional system sellers like a Wii Sports or a Beat Saber. But for the most part, most of them are just gimmicky things that you play for 20 minutes and never touch again.
Yep, and it's a shame. It is a shame because, these things do have applications, and the applications are large. The fun you can have is largely outside of the realm of gaming, like the Kinect. Like, the Kinect had more use as a fucking bomb disposal robot thing because it could accurately read the size of your room, which, when you really think about it, is, wait a minute, this thing that Xbox wanted to put in my bedroom could tell...
It depends on the colour of your skin, whether it could tell whether you were there or not, Carl.
Which you mentioned earlier of like, the people making these things never anticipate the average user experience. The amount of these things that don't work, like, as we said, if you are, disabled in some way, or just black.
There were many stories of just the Kinect not working on people that didn't look like Carl or me.
Yeah, because the cameras weren't able to detect the distinction in your features if you had darker complexions. Same with women when they're making devices of like, okay, so what is this device made for? Well, the average person. Okay, well, the average person, what is the average person? Okay, 5'10" man. But that's not the average person. That's literally less than, 49% of the population. The majority of people are actually women. Have you tested it with women? How many women was it? Was that RE4 virtual thing where you couldn't pull a grenade out if you're a woman?
It was something like that, or like reload your gun or something, because like there was like a grenade or ammo thing attached to your chest, and it was like, well, good luck if you've got boobs, because Leon's hands had to be inside of your boobs.
Yep.
For them to get the right things off your chest. It's like, it just doesn't work for women.
Because they just never tested it with a woman. Well, I think one of the funniest examples is the Duke. Remember the Duke?
Wasn't it something like all of the people that they play tested with were like 6 foot plus?
Apparently, yeah. The reason the Duke controller was so fucking massive is just, for some bizarre reason, like just some confluence of events, everyone they got for playtesting was over 6 foot tall. So when they asked for feedback, what was the number one piece of feedback they got? It's too small, make it bigger. And that's how you end up with that giant fucking controller that nobody could use.
I kind of get the opposite thing where Nintendo with the Joy-Cons, where I'm very comfortable with the Joy-Cons. Like, I know quite a lot of people that are, but then I speak to like you and a couple of our other friends that are like, 6'2" plus. They're like, these Joy-Cons are tiny, they don't fit in my hands properly.
And that's just a problem that you have with it. And it's difficult to anticipate the end user experience because, especially like the more it becomes reliant on input from the body, not everyone's body's the same.
Yep.
There's far more variation in body type than there is, and movement ability and stuff than there is on people's ability to, press a button.
Yeah, and there are also like a much better suite of accessibility controllers and stuff for pressing buttons. So even if you can't necessarily use like a controller that's just your regular Xbox pad or PlayStation pad or whatever, like there are accessibility controllers nowadays that are officially put out by PlayStation and by Xbox and Microsoft, like that can help people push buttons in different ways, but it's just one of those things where you can't really do that if the entire game is based around motion controls.
Yeah.
Carl, we've been talking about motion controls for far too long.
Yes.
Everybody in the comments, let us know your horror story about how you embedded a Wiimote into something, or you headbutted your wall wearing VR or something like that. I'm sure most people have experienced some level of that.
Yes.
If you've tried out any of these systems, and I hope everyone has a lovely time and give us a good old like, subscribe, and follow and all that jazz if you think we've earned it.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, it looks like it's time to play my second favorite game. Hide the broken TV from Dave. You want to play? No.